Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Unstoppable Mindset. Today, we're going to have a lot of fun today. We're going to talk to John Frost. John is an interesting kind of guy. He's a higher education strategist. He is the vice president of marketing and enrollment management at Doane University in Crete, Nebraska. And before we started, we were just talking about the weather. We're recording this on the 10th of March, and he said he's in the about 60. We're 68 going up to 73 here, so maybe spring is finally coming. We can hope. I remember once when we were still living in New Jersey, it was May of 2001, we thought the spring was here, and we got a bunch of snow one afternoon or one evening in New Jersey. Yeah, well, the next morning, so where I took the dogs out when we lived in New Jersey, I had to actually walk down a hill, and the next morning, some of the snow started to melt, and that night, the whole hillside was as slick as glass because the snow froze, so it was ice.
Oh my goodness.
And so what I did was not walk down the hill. I put my snow boots on and I made it down once and came back up. I said, I'm not doing that anymore. I had a long flex leash and I put the long leash on each dog separately and let them go down the hill. And I stayed at the top to make sure that they didn't slide.
It sound like, hey, I like that. It sounds like you a great strategist person because you came up with a game plan to allow them to go down up and down the hill.
Yeah, I certainly wasn't going to go down that hill with them anymore because that was too scary.
Yeah, that's dangerous.
Well, John, welcome to Unstoppable Mindset. We're glad you're here.
Hey, I'm happy to be here. Thank you for allowing me to be on your platform and taking time out of your day. And I'm looking forward to the great discussion that we're going to have.
Well, and taking the time out of your day, we appreciate that too. So it's 2 o'clock there. So by the time we're done, it's going to be time for the afternoon coffee break.
Hey, good call. Great call.
Well, tell us kind of about the early John growing up. That's
Yeah,
always fun to start there.
Yeah, that's a great question. So, one of the things I always like to share with people is that when I was a young man, I wasn't planning to go to college to work at a college. That wasn't the game plan. If anything, just like a lot of young, um, uh, especially young boys growing up in North Carolina, we want to grow up and play basketball. And I thought I was going to go to the NBA, and we all know the greatest basketball player of all time is Michael Jordan. He's from
Hmm.
North Carolina. So we all dreamed of that dream. But, I played sports growing up. I was fortunate enough to get a athletic scholarship to go to college and went to college. Didn't really know exactly what I was going to do
Where'd
other
you
than I
go?
thought, I finished at Wayne State College
Okay.
and got my bachelor's degree there. But while I was there, I figured out like, okay, I'm not going to the NBA. What I'm going to do? And so somebody was like, hey, John, you don't mind, connecting with people, having conversations. You're not afraid to talk in public. Maybe you should think about going into broadcasting. And so that's what I started to study. And so I was fortunate enough to get a communications degree. And then from that point, I went and worked in local news for about 4 years. So I was able to be a reporter and a photojournalist and an editor and was able to connect with a lot of people and tell a lot of stories. But the unique thing about doing news is that the only opportunity you have with the story is just to share it, right? You can't really impact it. And so one of the things that I appreciate about higher education is that when I transitioned to higher education after 4 years in local news, I realized I had the ability to impact the story. So it wasn't just about sharing the story of the individuals that I serve. It was about making their stories a little bit better through education. And so I started my career in higher education as a recruiter, worked my way up, worked at for profits and private schools and state schools, colleges and universities. And now I'm fortunate enough to be the vice president at Doane University. And I've been here for about 3 years. So that's kind of like a little snapshot of my story.
How long were you in broadcasting?
For about 4 years.
And
About
then
4 years, sir.
you went to the schools, huh?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Wow. So so where did you start and what kind of colleges did you go to all over the country or what?
Yeah. So what's funny is when I started my career in higher education, I started out as a recruiter, and I was working for a for-profit institution. And here's the unique thing: the school that I worked at was in a strip mall. So you
Oh,
could go to Sears and look at a lawnmower, and you can go to Verizon and get a phone, and you can go to the Slurpee shop and get you a slushie, and then you come talk to me about about college. And one of the things that taught me about working at a college in a strip mall was you really had to get to understand the students, and it wasn't about all the glitz and glamour that you may think about a traditional college. It was still about the opportunity. It was about the dream, and that's what I learned when I first started out as a recruiter is being able to help somebody to make their dream into a reality, and having those great conversations.
how did you learn the art of storytelling? What is it that caused that to happen? Because it sounds like it's kind of natural for you, but did you learn it growing up or what?
Well, you know what? That's a great question. One of the things I like to share with people is the art of dialogue, right? Just discussion, engagement. And growing up as a kid in North Carolina, we didn't have too much, but we always was able to run our mouths, right? We was always able to talk. We was always able to talk about what we did or what we didn't do because, yes, you know, back in the day, we didn't have camera phones. We
Yeah.
didn't we didn't have all this technology that captured everything that we did. And so when you would, you know, get somebody's attention, you had to hold it. You couldn't just say, "Hey, I played basketball and it was fun." It would be like, "Hey, I played basketball and I did this move and this guy tried to guard me and I blocked the shot and I did this." Or even if you went down the street because your mom wanted you to go get a gallon of milk or a carton of eggs, there was a story behind it because you got chased by a dog and or whatever. So I think the art of storytelling is just something that's natural to the human spirit. But then also not just talking about your story, but being able to understand somebody else's, and being able to connect with them. Because if you talk to people long enough, you'll find a connection.
Yeah. Did did your parents encourage storytelling or did they think about that at all?
You know, that's a great question. My dad was probably one of the greatest storytellers I ever met. I mean, the stories that he would tell me about how he grew up, the things that he experienced. I mean, even though he may not had a photo, even though he may not have had like video,
Hmm.
he can get you to where he was at, and you could see it. I mean, my dad was a guy that could tell you a story, and he'll tell you about hey, because he grew up around a bakery, and he would tell you how the bread smelled. So no matter what the story meant, he would always start off, well, you know, I grew up by a bakery, and this is what it smelled like, and you would get yourself to that point. And so I would say if my ability to tell a story, I would say I got that from my dad.
Yeah. So it was something that you learned. Now, are there other kids in your family or just you?
No, so I'm fortunate enough to have I'm the youngest out of four. So I have an older brother. I had an older sister, and I have another older sister, but unfortunately, she passed away probably
Mm.
like 16 years ago.
Wow.
So yeah, but so it's just three of us now. But yeah, you know, I was the youngest, so I was the one that's always causing trouble.
Well, gives you something to do in your free time.
Yeah, exactly.
Did the other two also grow up to tell stories and appreciate it?
Yeah, they grew up to tell stories. They couldn't tell them as good as I could though. But
Oh,
but no, my brother, he spent 25 years in the military in the Air Force, and was a Persian linguist. And so he had some really cool stories about his travels in the military. He still works for the military right now as a
mm.
civilian. And my sister, she works in behavioral science. She helps with social work and things like that. And my older sister, she helped run her own business before she passed away.
Now you were in the military for 24 years?
No, my
Your
brother
brother
was.
was. Okay, I wasn't
Yes.
sure. Okay,
Yeah,
great.
yeah. My
That
brother
makes more
was.
sense timing
Yeah,
wise.
yeah.
Yeah.
No. He decided to take that route. I didn't.
Cool. Well, but you're going to claim credit for being the best of the three in storytelling.
Absolutely.
There you
Absolutely.
go. And how would they react if they heard us talking about that?
It don't matter. They not on the call, so it's all good.
Good point. Can't argue with that. So you So you were in broadcasting for 4 years, and then you went into to different things in higher education. Why did you end up going into higher education?
You
Why
know,
didn't you continue in broadcasting, or what happened?
well, I love broadcasting. Don't get me wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And but I always say broadcasting is a very unique career path. You always running and gunning. And I worked here in Lincoln, Nebraska. So you're doing snow stories. You're doing Husker football. You're doing things about the budget, things about whatever the governor is saying. And at some point, I know for me personally, it was a guy that I ran into who done what I did when I was in news for 30 years. And one of the things that he had shared with me was don't get jaded.
Mm,
Don't go to a story and it's just another story. Don't
yeah.
forget the human approach. Don't forget the people that you're talking about. And he said the mistake that he made was, again, he did this for 30 years. He said he stayed in the business too long, that it
Mm.
was just another day. It was just a job. And when he shared that with me, that made me have a lot of time for reflection and thinking about, okay, so what is it that I really want to do? Even though I love the broadcasting field, it was always on the go, which I love to do. I said, is there something else for me to do? And I didn't know anything about higher education, to be honest with you, sir. I did not, other than I went to college. That's about good as it was. I didn't
That's a
understand the
start.
business. Yeah, yeah. I didn't know the business of higher education and things like that. But anyway, I remember back in the day, I just was curious and looking at some different options, and I happened to apply for a recruiter job. And when I went in for the interview, they said, "Hey, your job is to have conversations with people and try to get them enrolled in school." I was like, "Well, that's simple enough. I don't have to be out in the cold, covering snow stories anymore. And I'm from North Carolina, so I don't have to worry about covering Husker football no more." And then, I get to really make an impact. So that's all it was. It was just, I was still a young man. I was still looking to find my way, and I was fortunate to find higher education.
So when you did recruiting, what's a favorite story and success that you had at recruiting?
Oh, thank you. I love when people ask me this question. So I always share in my colleague Andrew's in the room with me, helping me do this podcast, and he's probably heard this story like 13,000 times. But um, you know, Michael, the best story that I like to share is the story when I started out as a recruiter, not really knowing what I was doing, but I had a conversation with a young lady. She was a single mom. And she was a single mom, and we had went through the whole process of talking about her goals and her dreams and how we can help. But then as we was kind of finishing up, kind of getting towards the end of the process of the conversation, she started getting teary eyed. And so my first thing is like, oh my goodness, what's going on? Why is she getting teary eyed? Like, what did I say? What did I do wrong? And then, I paused there and she looked at me and she said, you're the first person ever tell me that I can accomplish this goal. You're the first
Mm,
person ever tell me I can do this. And right then and there, sir, that's when I realized what the opportunity that I had in front of me
wow.
is that she went on to get her degree and went and get a master's degree. But whatever was going on in her life, that was a game changer, and
Yeah.
I was happy and fortunate enough to be a part of that. And so that's when I realized what I get to do for recruitment, and I never forgot about that. And when people ask about why we're successful in doing the things that we're doing, I think you never forget that it's not just a job. It's an honor. It's a privilege to get to change people's lives through education.
Going back to what your friend in the media for 30 years said, agree with that. I have been a speaker now for 24 years,
Mm,
and my belief is it's never about me. It's about what I can do to be involved and enhance what goes on at an event where I'm invited to come and speak. And I spend time asking the event organizers, what kind of messaging do you want? What can I do? How can I best be of help to you in making this event as successful as possible? Because I know there are so many speakers who think it's all about them, and
hmm
and it's not. It certainly isn't for me. So I hear what you say about him saying, "Don't ever let yourself get jaded," because that I can see how it could happen. But I've always just believed that's not the way to go. And, we've got a lot of things going on in the media and in our country today. And I talk to so many people who say, I don't even watch the news anymore because it just upsets me and so on. And I say, look, one of my basic philosophies is don't worry about what you can't control. Focus on what you can. That doesn't
Mm-hmm.
mean you're not aware of the other stuff going on, but you don't have to let it affect you because you're not going to be in a position to really control it. Actually, you can once every 4 years, and that's at the ballot box. But
Yep.
but the bottom line is you can still watch the news, but you can choose not to let it affect you and drive you crazy. And I think that's so important. And all of the presidents lately have all done things that were productive, and they've done things that weren't productive. And
Yes.
we can't. I love to say I'm an equal opportunity abuser, which is why we don't talk about politics much on the podcast. But I remember so much when Barack Obama was about to be inaugurated as president, and I was watching the Letterman show one night, and Letterman was bemoaning the fact that it's going to get boring around here. We're not going to have a president to pick on anymore. We got a good guy coming in, so you knew where he stood. But
Yeah.
we can't tell the jokes. Well, that didn't last very long, but that's
No.
okay. But we have control over what we let affect us. It doesn't mean that we don't need to be aware, but we can control whether we allow it to affect us and bother us or not. And I think that's part of the whole art of conversation, because we're in a world where people don't want to talk to each other. If you don't believe what I believe, then you're wrong. And that's just not the way to do it.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree 100%. And that's one of the things I like to tell people about the how important a college campus is. It's one of the few places still on the planet, and in our country where you can agree to disagree and it's okay. It's called class, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so and you can have different conversations. You can share different perspective. The one thing about I think sometimes when we leave college that we forget is that we forget the ability to still be curious, right? And still want to learn and still want to understand. It's not about being right, it's about getting it right. And so I think that's one of the most powerful things that happens on a college campus is that you still are somewhat not forced, but you're encouraged to engage with people from different walks of life, for different perspectives and things like that. So, really good point, and I think it just feeds into what we do here on a college campus.
Do you find that that's true across colleges, that people are still able to participate in the art of conversation?
Yes,
Oh, good.
one of the things that I've been fortunate enough to do, especially in my role, and I've done it at every school that I worked at, is that I like to sit in the classroom.
Mm.
I like to go to the classes to see what's going on, and I'm telling you, and it never fails. I mean, there's a lot of opinions and thoughts about the future and about the current generation and the future generations, but man, their thought patterns, their ability to kind of have different discussions and conversations. I mean, it's 10 times better than it was when I was that age,
Mm.
because they do have access to so much information. So they can construct a really great argument. One of the things that you see in the classroom is them being able to know how to learn how to deal with disagreement. And so that's been taking place. But yeah, I think the art of conversation is still profound. And I think it's still being encouraged in our classrooms by our faculty members.
Isn't it great when you're in a classroom or you're either involved or observing a conversation and someone just comes up with something incredibly, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but unusual or profound that you never thought of and maybe the other people hadn't thought of? That's the whole issue with thought patterns, and people just come up with unique things that make you go off in different directions.
Yes, yes. It's a
Isn't
beautiful
that
thing.
fun? Yeah.
It's fun. It's a beautiful thing. That's why I say it's a beautiful mind, right? I mean, it's that's what we should be doing, right? I
Yeah.
always say we're not here to do this on our own. We're here to do it together in different ways,
Yeah.
by conversation, by engagement, by agreeing to disagreeing. Sometimes when somebody disagrees with you, it challenges you to think a little different, to make sure what you're saying is, do you really believe that, or are you just saying what you think you know, right? And so I think it's a beautiful thing.
And I think it's great when professors contribute to that and make you think in different directions. And you don't even need to know what they actually think about whatever, although I'm sure that usually comes out as time goes by. But still, if they make people think, then that's a good thing.
Yes. Yes.
It's so important to do, and I think it's important that all of us do that. I know I had an academic advisor who spent lots of time with me. He was the dean of physical sciences, actually. So I'm not quite sure why I got Dr. Reines. He was the discoverer of the neutrino, but
Wow.
I did, and he and I had a lot of interesting conversations, and I hope I challenged him too. But he certainly challenged me in terms of some of the ways that I thought about things. And sometimes we agreed, and sometimes we didn't necessarily agree. But what a neat guy, and it's so great to have people that basically are in their own way philosophers in whatever they do.
Absolutely.
So, what did you do after recruiting? How long did you recruit, and what did you do after that?
Well, I mean, I was fortunate enough to always get promoted and move up, but I'm always recruiting. I always tell people
Good
I'm
point.
always selling because we're always selling the opportunity of
Yeah,
education. I
yeah.
don't whatever role that I may have, if it's a director or if it's a assistant director or vice president. I feel like the most important role that I have is being an educational advocate. At the end of the day, I know a lot of people have their opinions about higher education or about education in general, but the one thing that I always challenge them with is that education is still one of the resources that still can change people's lives.
Hmm.
It's still one of the things because people say, well, why should I do this and why should I do that? Because it works. You're
Yeah.
looking at it. If it wasn't for higher education, I probably wouldn't be here. I don't know what I would have done. But because of higher education, just like I mentioned at the beginning of our conversation, it provoked me to think differently about my own skill set beyond just athletics. It was
Mm.
about some of those soft skills and hey, John, you naturally don't mind conversating with people and talking. Like I didn't know you can get paid to talk. You know what I mean? Like I didn't know that was an option. That wasn't on the bingo card. So, but if it wasn't for education and having those conversations as we talked about, I wouldn't have known that that was an option. And so at the end of the day, I mean, I'm just a country kid from East Winston, North Carolina, who wanted to be a basketball player. Instead, I turned out to be a guy that's an educational advocate that probably did more in this role than I ever would have done by shooting a basketball.
Couldn't get Michael Jordan to come and give you a few pointers, huh?
No, he didn't have time for me. You know, maybe he could do that to my sons or somebody, but no, he didn't have time for me.
Well, that's okay.
Yes, sir.
You could have always gone off and tried to get Magic Johnson or Larry Bird.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But I'm a Mike guy. I'm a Mike guy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And whatever. That works. Well,
Yes.
so you've always been promoted. You said you've been at Doane for 3 years. Where were you before that?
Yeah, so I was fortunate enough to work at College of St. Mary, which is the undergrad program was for all females, and the graduate program was inclusive of everybody. So I worked there for a few years, and then before there, I was at Southern Illinois University in Carbondale, in
Mm.
Illinois, and that was a great experience as well. And then several other places, like I said, I worked in community colleges, and then also some private schools throughout the Midwest. And so, been a lot of different places, learned a lot. Every school is different, but they also the same. That's why I tell people, because they're the same because they all are trying to do the same things and trying to help people get their educational credentials and opportunities. But they're different in how they go about it. They all have their own character. They all have their features and benefits. And they all have their own unique stories. And so again, it ties into our discussion about stories because every person that walks one of those university halls are going to be able to be part of that overall story of that university.
I like one of the things that you said. You learned a lot. You are always learning, and I think that's so important because the reality is you never know when a new nugget of knowledge will come and be profound and hit you right in the head, and you take it and run with it. But learning a lot is so important.
Yes, yes, and I will piggyback on that is, it's something that I try to tell the people I serve and also my kids. You know, information is power. Is power, but
Mm-hmm.
information with application allows you to have impact. And so it's great to have the information, but if you're not applying it, then it's not going to be useful, right?
Yeah.
So even though we all are learners, once you learn something, the question would be, how will you use it moving forward?
Yeah, and that's an important part of it. It isn't enough to let it build up inside of you and have all this information if you're not doing something with it. What good is it?
Absolutely.
And information and knowledge changes over time. Things that maybe 30 and 40 years ago people studied are so commonplace today because there's so many new things that we evolve.
Yes, yes. I always tell people, 40 years ago, they used to smoke in airplanes, right?
Yeah.
At, at some point, somebody figured out that wasn't a good idea because they got new information, right? So I agree 100% to what you said.
I think one of my best examples of information is, for years the movie Airplane wasn't shown on airplanes, and I flew on a flight once and then they showed it. I was going, I can't believe it, but they're showing Airplane on an airplane. That was great. The
A
things
good
people
one.
do, but yeah, I hear what you're saying. Yeah, for years people smoked on airplanes. They had a non-smoking section where I always
Yes.
sat, but still, um, it's great that there's not smoking. Although they still haven't totally done away with liquor on airplanes, and I've seen some people who've gotten pretty exposed to having a number of drinks on an airplane. I was on a flight with one guy. It was a morning flight, actually. We're flying from Ontario to Dallas, and I had gotten upgraded. So I was sitting next to this guy. He ordered a double vodka tonic, and he had 9 of them by the time we got to Dallas.
Oh, wow.
And I'm
Oh,
going,
wow.
my gosh, I don't know how he got off the plane, but he did. But I guess the body adjusts. But I didn't even have one. I'm whatever.
Oh my goodness. He must be either really excited or really nervous. One of the two.
I don't know, one of those, something. But it was pretty fascinating because he just kept ordering them. And the other part about it was they kept bringing them. So whatever.
Wow.
Yeah. Ah, well, the world is a funny place.
It
Well,
is.
so tell me a little bit about Doane College. And I know it's a liberal arts college, so tell me about that. But tell me about Doane.
Yeah, Doane University.
Doane
Like I said, we've been,
University. I said college. I'm sorry.
no worries, no worries. We've been around for 153 years. We
You don't
are.
sound that old.
That's a good one. And we have undergraduate programs, have about 35 undergraduate programs. Education was what was built. Dawn was built on, again, educating the community, educating future leaders. And that's one of the things with our president of the university is that we build leaders. That's one of our mantras that we stand on. At the same time, we have opportunities for online, in-person, hybrid. So we have a lot of different modalities. We also have graduate programs within business and education, leadership. In addition to that, we have Open Learning Academy, which that platform is built for students that may even go to other schools. They're looking to take additional courses to get into medical school or some type of additional schooling, but they may not have the right classes or skills yet. So they'll take those courses with Open Learning Academy. And we have a lot of non-degree seeking opportunities, certifications. So Doane is one of those schools that's a leader in building the future. It's a leader in trying to think differently. It's a organization that's embracing the things that are changing in our society. We don't run from those things. We don't run from them. We run to them. Because we want to be the leaders in making the world a better place, but also being able to solve problems, be able to have innovation and enhancement to the human experience. And that's what we do. So I can go on and on, but Doane University is a wonderful place. We have the Creek campus here, which is our main campus. And then we also have class offerings in Lincoln, Nebraska, and also in the Omaha metro area. And then, as I mentioned, online.
Where's Crete?
Crete is about 45 minutes away from the state capital of Lincoln,
Oh,
Nebraska.
Lincoln. Okay.
Yep, and it's about an hour away from the largest city in Nebraska of
Omaha.
Omaha.
Uh-huh.
So that's where it's about at. So it's more on the eastern side of the state, but it's a great place to come and get your education.
So it's a liberal arts college. What does that mean exactly?
Oh, that's a great question. So the one of the things about the liberal arts is that it's a holistic view of the human experience, right? It's not just, hey, I'm learning something just to learn it. It's not just focused on a physical or medical perspective. It's a overall leader, um, I would say, human experience. So you're not just going to come to school and focus on just your program. You're going to come to school here and get an education in the classroom and outside of the classroom. You're going to
Mm.
study some different things. You're going to do some worldly things. It's going to be hands-on. So the liberal arts is really big because we feel like that's what's missing. I mean, unfortunately, in higher education, sometimes people just want to get the degree and go on with their lives. We want to make sure you understand the degree that you have and how you can utilize it in a multiple ways
Yeah.
beyond just whatever the program was that you got your degree in.
I had the pleasure last September 11th of speaking at the Massachusetts College of Liberal Arts, and I had never actually heard
Wow.
of MCLA, but until they reached out to me. But it was kind of fun and very enjoyable, and people asked really good, well-rounded questions when we had some Q&A sessions, which I always really appreciate. It's good to really get people who are thinking, and so it was a lot of fun.
Awesome. Yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah, they wanted to do something around September 11th, and we did. So
Yes.
I can't complain about that at all. It was it was a little bit of a challenge to get to because it was the nearest airport is Albany, and it was like about an hour and 20 minutes away, but we got there, so it worked out. So but I enjoy the whole concept of what liberal arts colleges are about. I think it's important to deal with your degree, but I think it's important to also, as you say, get a more rounded understanding and learn how to use the degree and learn to use the skills that you get,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
which I think is so. What sets Doane apart? What makes Doane unique, maybe from a lot of other places?
You know, I get that question a lot of what separates Doan. And I think it's beholden to the individual that I'm talking to. The one thing about Doan is I think that separates us from everybody else. It's not about telling somebody what they can't do. It's about figuring out how they can do it. And that's what Doan does.
Mm.
With us being a small liberal arts college, we're very hands-on. And I know a lot of colleges say that, but we're about relationships. We're not about being order takers. We're about being dream makers. And that's just as simple as I can make it. If you come to Doane University, you're not just coming just to go through the process and go through the ups and downs of being a college student. We're trying to make sure that you understand what it is that, because here's the thing, majority of the students that start sometimes don't know exactly what they want to do. I mean, we have a lot of students that start college and they're undecided.
Mm.
And so what we like to make sure that we do is build that relationship, understand that particular student, and then come up with a game plan and get them to where they want to be. And I feel like that's what we do. We're not just going to say, hey, I'm interested in criminal justice or I'm interested in nursing. And we just say, here you go. Yeah, go ahead. We have that. Good luck. God bless. We're going to say, hey, you know what? Tell me more about that. Why are you interested in nursing? And again, one of the things I used to always use when people say they're interested in nursing, I'll ask these three questions. I ask these three questions. First question, are you afraid of blood? Right?
Good point.
Second question, what would you do if I vomited right now? Would you be the person that run or would you be the person that help? And the last question, how do you feel being on your feet for 12 hours a day?
Yeah.
Right? So by the time I get through those questions, I kind of have a good understanding exactly if they want to be a nurse or not. But then the follow-up question, which is the most important question, Michael, is tell me, why do you want to be a nurse? Well, I want to
Yeah.
help people. And so Granted, sometimes, just like I mentioned about my story, sometimes you're limited on what your options are.
Yeah.
So even though somebody wanted to be a nurse because they want to help people, but they may not be a good fit. However, we can show them, hey, there's a variety of ways that you can help people. It
Yeah.
may not be nursing, but here's some other options that we can look into. And that's what separates us. That's what we do. We have a conversation and we don't rush that conversation. It's just like what we're doing right now. We get to know each other and we get to help. For by the time they walk across that stage, they're excited about that degree they have in their hand.
That's great. I every year I just always make it a habit to get a physical, and there are usually blood draws as part of it. And it's so fun to go in, and when I sit down and they're getting the needle and everything ready to do the blood test, I say, "Now, I just have to ask, what are you going to do if I can't stand the sight of blood?" I've had a couple who fall into the trap, and then they finally figure out, "Oh, this guy's blind. What's he talking about?" Oh gosh. But I guess I'd probably be a good nurse. I can answer
Yeah.
those three questions, but things happen, and you
Yes.
got to do what you got to do. Well,
Absolutely.
so right now, higher education, like I think so many things is going through some major changes. We're seeing so many technological advances. So higher education is being challenged to adapt faster because so many things are happening. We haven't even talked about AI, but how is Doane responding to all the new and sometimes innovative ways of dealing with education and helping students progress?
Yeah, it's just like I mentioned, we embracing all the new changes. I mean, one of the things that Doan is doing is really embracing AI, looking at how do you teach the future about AI? How do you utilize it? How do you harness it in a way that it makes it something that it's a resource? It's not a shortcut,
Yeah.
and use it as a prompt to, again, as we talked about earlier, to create curiosity. And it's just like I mentioned before, you know, yeah, there's conversations about higher education, but as I mentioned, I would put higher education up against any other industry about how it changed society. Like I said, it works. It changes people's lives. You have people that come from all over the world to get a college education, right? Because they know it's something that they need to have to be able to move forward in their life and also to amplify and enhance their abilities that they have. The one thing that I say about college is that it takes those natural talents and make it into a marketable skill set.
Mm.
And so that's what we're doing with the rhetoric in the conversation about higher education. Is it worth it? Should people still do it? The one thing that I've always said is like, maybe you may not be the student that starts college right out of high school, but at some point in time, you're going to have to get some additional training. At some point in time, you're going to have to go get some additional post-secondary education just to be able to progress in life. Because as we all said, with AI, different things with technology, different ways of thoughts, being able to work with different people, that's what a college does, and that's what you are investing in. That's probably going to be one of the best investments that you're going to have in your life.
Do you find that there are some people who still do or who just do treat AI as a shortcut and try to use it to circumvent doing the real work that they need to do?
Absolutely, but I think that tells more about that person than AI,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, I agree. I agree. One of my favorite comments about AI is back in, I think it was 2022, around Christmas time. I was at a family gathering, and there were a couple people there who were complaining about AI, and then teachers are so frustrated because students just write their papers using AI, and you don't know that they're learning anything. And I popped up and I said, "You're approaching this all wrong.
Mm,
If a student wants to use AI to write their paper, let them write their paper. But what the teacher should do is collect all the papers and then take one period and call each student up to the front of the class, right in front of everybody, and give them a minute to defend their paper.
yes,
Without the
yes.
paper, either they know it or they don't. And you're going to find out very quickly who really did the work and who didn't. And people who didn't are going to catch on pretty quickly that doesn't work."
Yes, and isn't it funny that when you think about education, when you think about the philosophers from back in the day, you had some philosophers who thought writing was the wrong thing to do, right? Because
Hmm.
they would get up and just have these long soliloquies about what they know and challenge things. So I think it's funny that with AI allowing us to write, it's going to make us be more verbal and have to articulate our stance and perspectives on things
Yeah.
a little bit more. So I think it's fascinating how there's a full circle approach, because when you first start thinking about education and those things, it wasn't about writing long soliloquies about things. It was about being able to get up and articulate it. And so I think, to your point, I think that's what is going to somewhat force us to do, is people be able to get up and to defend what they're sharing with other people.
Yeah, and if they're smart, they'll do it right.
Yes.
I've used AI in writing articles. I'll even ask it several times to write an article about something, and then I read through them. And when I find an idea or something that I think is great, I'll incorporate it into what I write
Mm-hmm.
to create the article. Well, I think AI is a great tool as far as it goes, but it is a tool, and
Yes.
it's never going to be as smart as I am.
No,
And I
no,
don't
that
mean that in an egotistical way. It just isn't.
no, and AI can only do what we teach it, right?
Right.
I mean, that's the thing. And what's fascinating is that if you look at electricity was criticized when it first came out.
Yeah.
What is this going to do? When you looked at the
Well, there
newspaper
was
and looked at
that dumb guy who sent his kite up in the air and finally shocked himself.
exactly, Benjamin Franklin. Yeah. So, I mean, throughout history, every new thing has been challenged, and it has been told that it was the beginning of the end of the world. And
Yeah.
look, thousands of years later, we're still here.
Yeah. But as we all know, the Earth is flat. There's still a flat Earth society out there, and they come up with pretty creative things to try to convince people the world is flat. So there you go.
Yes.
Ah, well. But I think it's a great tool, and people will find ways to use it and use it effectively, and that's what should happen. What about higher education in general? Why is, to some degree, it declining, and how do we deal with that?
And that's a great question. I'm not sure when people say that. I'm not sure if higher education is declining. I just think people aren't doing the normal trend of just coming to higher education straight out
Hmm.
of high school. I think that's where I think most people are doing education. They're just doing it in a different way. I mean, are people going to trade schools? Yes, but everybody's not going to be able to be a plumber or electrician or anything like that. I think it's not declining. I just think it's changing, to be honest with
Hmm.
you. I just think people are looking at it from a different perspective and utilizing it. And that's what it should do. I mean, it should not stay the same forever. And so that's why I'm fortunate enough to be in this industry, because I get to be part of that conversation and process of what it's going to look like for my kids, what it's going to look like for my grandkids. To be honest, if we're doing the same things they did when I was in college, we're doing something wrong.
Yeah.
And so I think it's changing. I think humans are changing. And I think that's what's so exciting about what's happening in higher education right now.
One of the big problems, of course, though, with higher education, and I'm assuming I may be wrong, but more now than somewhat in the past, is the cost. It's getting more and more expensive to do, and I don't know whether that's a relative thing or an absolute percentage wise. You can prove that it's more expensive, but still, how do you deal with the people who say it's just so much more expensive to go?
Yeah, no, that's a great one. And I think it depends on what are you looking for, right? I mean, everybody is not looking to go to XYZ University.
I'd never go to XYZ anyway.
I mean, XYZ because ABC is probably better.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
but the thing is understanding what is it's just like anything. It's an investment.
It's
And
a
if it's an
priority.
investment, it's what is your financial ability to work towards that investment. And that again goes back to our conversations with the students that we serve, is them understanding what does it cost to come to Doane University? What does it mean to invest in Doane University? And how does that return looks like once you're done here at Doane University? The one thing that I always would tell people, I can't guarantee anything. But what I can guarantee is that you're going to do a lot better with a degree than without it, because you're going to provide yourself an abundance of options that wouldn't be available if you did not have that degree. In which, because if you have those options, that's going to allow you to be able to create revenue for yourself that then allows you to have additional options that you wouldn't have been able to have if you didn't make that initial investment up front by investing in college. But like I said, with ever since I've been in this industry, the one thing that I've always stressed to the people that I serve is, understanding your financial responsibility, understanding scholarships, understanding your ability to get scholarships, understanding financial aid, understanding grants, understanding there's a variety of ways that you can get support to support you to finance college. And so that's the main thing, is being able to understand those options and knowing how to move forward with those.
Do you think there are some people who are better off not going to a four-year college, or rather, let's just say higher education in general? They're more technical and they should just do a trade school, or do you think everyone should get a full bachelor's degree, at least in college?
Yeah, and as I mentioned, I think everybody deserves the opportunity for some post-secondary education. Not does everybody need to go to a 4-year school or 2-year school? No. If you put me in a trade school right now, I'll probably flunk out. That's just
Yeah,
not my skill set,
yeah,
right?
yeah. Me too.
Yeah. So, but I do
That's one of
think
the reasons I'd never go to XYZ. But yeah,
you may be more of an ABC.
yeah.
And so, but that's the uniqueness and the joy that I get in what I get to do, is that I get to help qualify what are some of the best options for the individual that I'm working with and serving, and being able to tell them, hey, I think this is maybe a better option, or have you thought about these particular things? Because no, I don't think everybody needs to go to Harvard, or everybody needs to come to Doane. But I do think if you do decide to go to Doane, you're going to have a wonderful experience and you're going to be able to do some really great things. But no, I think at the end of the day is what's best fit for you, and being able to understand those post-secondary education options.
How does college, or how should college work to help people not only prepare for that first career, but for careers, especially those that perhaps we haven't even thought of yet? And how do you do that?
Yeah, I think it comes down to, like we talked about, the curiosity. What are you naturally good at? I think the one thing that I've seen that I guess I wouldn't say I've been disappointed, but I've seen a decline, is that I don't see a lot of people who are dreaming or
Mm,
curious about what they're good at. It's
mm,
almost like they're waiting for somebody to tell them what it is. I don't know if that's an online thing or what have you, but even when I was a recruiter and I would work with young people, and they would say, "Well, I don't know what I want to do," and I always say, "I don't care what it is. Take the top 10 things that you just like. I don't. It could be basketball, it can be writing, it can be candy, it can be whatever. It can be great shoes, whatever. And take the top 10 things. And we have this thing called Google. I don't know if you heard about it. Um, but and just plug those things in there. Hey, I love candy. Is there a career in candy? I love, you know, looking at shoes and understanding shoes. Is there a career? I mean, the uniqueness of information that we have now than we had 30 years ago
yeah.
is amazing. And so I think that's what I've seen a decline in. The way colleges can help prepare people is to allow them to be courageous and being curious.
Do you think?
And
Oh, go ahead. Go
no, and
ahead.
I think that's the thing that we want to do. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Do you think that there's so much access to so many things online? You mentioned Google, but just the whole concept of smartphones and everything else. Do you think that that's sort of helping people do less real dreaming and imagination because they just expect everything to be spelled out and right in front of them?
And I think it's to the eye of the beholder. Smartphones are not good for dumb people, right? So, but I think smartphones for curious people are a powerful thing. I can honestly say, and this is kind of off topic, but I wouldn't consider myself a cook about 10, 12 years ago. But if it wasn't for the internet, if it wasn't for YouTube, um, I wouldn't have learned how to smoke meat and do barbecue, right?
Yeah.
Because that wasn't something I did when I was a kid. It wasn't something I was even thinking about. But because I had a curiosity and I love barbecuing and I love smoked meats and I love grilling and things like that. I learned because of my smartphone how to do all those things, how to prep the meat and how to marinate things and how to be curious about recipes and how to develop flavor profiles and all those things that I did not know about if it wasn't for the advent of having a smartphone to just look it up. Like, hey, how do you make pulled pork? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? and, and just taking it from there. So I think again, smartphones are not good for dumb people. I'm not saying people are dumb, but I think it's powerful for curious people. And as long as you're curious, I think it can be a really great asset for you if you utilize it right.
And I think that's absolutely true. I think it all comes down again to curiosity. It's great to have a technology so that you can look things up and satisfy your curiosity. But what we do need to do is to try to work as best we can at encouraging curiosity at all levels and encouraging more people to be curious. And that's where I think the real challenge is, because people think you don't have to really be curious because you can look things up. They don't get it.
Yes. No, I agree 100%. And that's why I say it depends on the type of person you are, right? I don't spend a lot of time on my phone if I don't have to, but when I am curious about certain things,
Mm-hmm.
I can go to it and learn more about it and say, oh, this is what I need to do. But if you was a person that was going to cut a corner or do shortcuts, you was going to figure out a way to do that anyway.
Yeah.
It's not the resource, it's you.
Right. And the time is going to come when you're going to regret taking those shortcuts because you didn't really imagine very well. And I always regarded the internet, dark web notwithstanding, as a treasure trove. Of
Yes.
course, I'm waiting for someone, since the Department of Justice and the Attorney General back in, I think, 2022 said that the internet is a true place of business, and so it falls under the ADA and all websites have to be accessible. I'm just waiting for somebody to go off and challenge one of the dark web sites that's probably not accessible. I'm waiting for that to happen.
Yeah. That's a good
Take
one.
that before a judge, but still, but I think that the internet and so many things, and Chat GPT and all the other large language model technologies are great because they really give you the ability to exercise curiosity, and I think that's so fun.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So, what's an example that you can talk about? Let's say from Doane, about how industry and the college have collaborated to help in terms of education and showing people what they can really do.
You know, that's a good question. It happens every day. It
Yeah.
happens every day. It happens every day when the first day of school to the last day of graduation. You're looking at the ultimate collaborative effort of maybe hundreds of people for that individual to walk across that stage. Even though it's one name on that degree, it might have taken 100 people to get them there. From the advisors, from the faculty members, from the friends that they meet, from the coaches, from all types of different people that one individual encountered to keep them encouraged, to keep them going. I always tell people, especially being here in Nebraska, when you go to school in Nebraska, one day you're gonna have a class that's at 8 o'clock in the morning, and you're gonna wake up and you're gonna walk out there, you're gonna feel -10 degree weather. And you're going to first thing you're going to think about is I can go right back in and go lay back down. But it's that encouragement of your friends. It's the encouragement of the folks that are behind you that's going to tell you you can make it a class. You can make it a class, and that's all it takes. And so I think the culmination of all those things is what it is that we do. I mean, when that individual walk across that stage and they see grandma or mama or daddy or whomever screaming their name and yelling and all that, they went to class. They didn't
Yeah.
turn back around and go, they lay back down. They stood up, and that's why they walk across that stage. So that's the greatest example I can give you because that's what Doane does. And like I said, we've been doing it for 153 years. So it's not going to be too many places. It's not going to be too many things where you're not going to see a Doane graduate that's doing great things, not necessarily just for themselves, but for the organizations that they serve and the people that they serve, and then for the greater good of the world.
I don't know. For me, I had classes almost every day at 8 in the morning. But the other part about it was if I had a schedule for whatever reason where I didn't have a class at 8 in the morning, I felt funny. I was so used to having classes then. I don't know
Yes.
what I did figure out I could go study and I could do things and did, but still, I loved those early morning classes. That was me. But
Yes,
I know that
I
some
didn't like
people
those
got
early morning class. No, I didn't like them.
you didn't like them, huh?
No.
That was when Michael Jordan was looking for you to do basketball stuff. Where were you? But yeah, I hear you. Well, tell me what's next. What's next for the whole future of higher education? Where is it going, or what do you see happening in the future?
We're just going to get better. We're just going to get better. That's all. That's what's happening. I mean, the unique thing about any college campus is that you have the future in your hands with the people that's going to be running corporations, the people that's going to be finding cures for certain illnesses or things like that, the people that's going to be teaching the youth, future business people or politicians. They're on our campus, and they're going to leave their mark because that's one thing that I've always said. I mean, there's not too many discoveries. There's not too many great things that's happened in our society that's not oriented with a college campus. And so the future is that a college campus is just, it may look different. It may feel different. We may do things a little different. But at the end of the day, it's still going to be part of our future. It's still going to be getting better. It's still going to be helping humanity. I always tell the folks that I serve that I don't care what title you have. The first title, the most important title is being a human. And so that's what the future of higher education is going to look like. It's just going to get better. Like I said, it's going to be different. I mean, you got to think when higher education first started, women couldn't go to school, minorities couldn't go to school. And there were so many different things that you couldn't do. Now look at it. I mean,
Yeah,
if you talk to the forefathers or the presidents of some of these universities, if you told them that you and I would even be doing this, they'll be thinking they would throw you in an insane asylum, right?
yeah.
That you'll be able to talk to somebody in California and you're in Nebraska. But this is what curiosity, this is what higher education provokes.
As it should be. It is so cool, and I know it's only going to continue, and it will continue to get better. If people want to reach out to you, and pick your brain, or just talk with you about Doane, or just talk with you about education, or whatever, how do they do that?
Yeah, of course, feel free to email me at john.frost@doane.edu. So JOHN.Frost, at Doane, DOANE @edu. And then also follow us on social media. Just put us on any social media platform and put Doane.edu. You can find us. And then if you want to just connect with us, just look us up on our website, Doane.edu. That's our website. We'd love to learn more about you. If you're thinking about coming to college or looking more into learning about higher education, just start there and reach out to me, and we'll love to have a conversation.
Well, there you go. Well, I hope people will reach out, and I'm sure we stimulated a lot of little gray cells over the last hour, which is as good as it could get. But I
Yes.
hope people will reach out, maybe just enter in discussions with you and so on, and that if you can help encourage people, that's as good as it gets. So I really think that's a cool thing, and I want to thank you for being here, and I want to thank all of you for being here with us. This has been fun for the last hour. My gosh, time flies when you're having fun. But
Yes, it does.
I really appreciate y'all being here. Wherever you are, I'd appreciate it if you'd give us a great review on whatever site you're at. We appreciate reviews, and people who are interested in exploring podcasts will read those reviews. Trust me. If you'd like to reach out to me, I'd love it if you would. You can reach me at speaker, SPEAKER, at Michael Hingson, MICHAEL, HINGSON.com, speaker at michaelhingson.com. And for all of you listening and being here, John, including you, if you know anyone else who ought to be a guest on Unstoppable Mindset, would really appreciate it if you would introduce us, provide a mutual introduction. We're always looking for people who want to tell their stories and talk about things. So we really appreciate you doing that, and thank you in advance for doing it. So, John, once again, thank you for being here. This has been absolutely fun.
Yeah, thank you. And I appreciate you allowing us to come to your platform, and look forward to connecting with you hopefully in the future again.
If you're ready to go deeper into the ideas that shape how we see ourselves and others, I have a free gift for you. Head over to michaelhingson.com and download my free ebook, Blinded by Fear. Keep learning, keep questioning, and keep choosing to live with an unstoppable mindset.